about Chapter 6, Operations on Functions. And so you're going to notice at the board there, we are going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide functions. And so basically what ends up happening is if you have two functions, in this case f of x and g of x, if you want to add those together, all you're going to do is add like terms. Okay, we've already done this. Should be nothing new. Subtraction, same thing. All you're going to do is subtract terms. Biggest thing is if you've got a quantity, like we have here in this example, remember that you need to distribute that negative to each term. And that was one that was on your test that you took on Friday. Okay, here to multiply, remember with multiply you distribute. You could also FOIL, you know, if you've got two binomials. And then divide. Biggest thing here that you need to understand is that your denominator can't equal 0. It just can't. So when I divide these two functions and I get 2x over negative x plus 5, x cannot equal 5 because that's where the denominator equals 0. So whenever you divide, you have to do what's called restricting your domain. So you basically just say what values x can't be. The question is, how do you know what values x can't be? This is what you do. Negative x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, and you set it equal to 0. So you'd subtract 5, you'd get negative x equals negative 5, and then notice you get x to equal 5. Okay, so that's all you do when you restrict the domain. So we're going to look at an example here, and it says, given f of x equals x squared minus 4, and g of x equals 2x plus 1, find each function. Indicate any restrictions in the domain. First of all, am I going to have any restrictions in the first two here? No, because there is no division. Division is the only one that you're going to have to restrict the domain. And so all I'm going to do here is I know that f plus g of x equals f of x plus g of x. So all I'm going to do is sub in the corresponding parts. So I know that f of x is x squared minus 4. I know that g of x is 2x plus 1. So now all I'm going to do is add like terms, and when you add like terms together, you end up getting x squared plus 2x minus 3. And there you go, that's it. There's nothing more difficult. I mean, that's all it is. Okay? So, that's just, this is what it's defined to be, because that was from the previous page. So on the next one, you're going to take, remember this is defined to be f of x minus g of x. So all I'm going to do is plug in. So I get x squared minus 4 minus 2x plus 1. Notice what I did. I put the minus outside of the 2x plus 1 because now what I need to do is distribute that negative here and here. So what will your final answer be? X squared. Yep. Minus 5. Okay, because you have negative 4 and negative 1. So that's it. So we've added and subtracted. What do you think is going to come next? Multiplication and division. So once again, fg of x is defined as being f of x times g of x. That's what that is defined to be. So I'm just going to plug in what I know. I know that f of x is x squared plus 5x minus 2. And I know that g of x is 3x minus 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to distribute each of those. Okay, so when I multiply a 3 by 2 in that case, 3 terms by 2 terms, I'm going to distribute here and here to start with. So what do I get first? 3x cubed minus 2x squared. Now what I'm going to do is distribute this term. And I get 15x squared minus 10x. And then now if I distribute the negative 2, I get negative 6x plus 4. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at combining and adding like terms. So I end up getting 3x cubed plus 13x squared minus 16x plus 4. And there you go, that's all it is. So once again, this isn't anything new. Okay, fairly straightforward. We've done this before. So now f of g of x, notice what this one means, or f over g of x, I'm sorry. That means f of x over g of x. So I know that f of x is x squared plus 5x minus 2. G of x is 3x minus 2. Now notice I have division, so now I need to restrict the domain. So to restrict the domain, what am I going to do with the 3x minus 2? Set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add 2, and so I get 3x equals 2. And then what does x equal? 2/3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put that x cannot equal 2/3. The reason why you put it cannot equal is because if it equals 2/3, that denominator is 0. Okay, so then that's your final answer. That's it. That's all you do.
I like this.
Okay.
Easy peasy.
All right, so that's the first part of your homework. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Like I said, this is really nothing new. Okay? Now what we're going to look at next is composition of functions. Okay? And actually that's how the kids that are older remember it. They remember it as FOG and GOF. And basically composition of functions, it's the results of one function are used to evaluate a second function. The results of one function are used to evaluate a second function. And so there I get FOG. That's f of g of x. That's how it's read. This means of f of g of x. And that's going to mean f, and then notice the parentheses. So basically, whenever you see that little circle, that means a set of parentheses. Now, another way you will see this written, and how is that going to be read?
G of S.
G of f of x. Yep, and so what this means is that means a g, and then you've got an f of x function. Now, it's important that you get that down, what these equal, because we're going to use those when we get into solving some of these problems. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and look at what happens when you've got ordered pairs. Okay, and there's a long drawn out way and then there's a shortcut way. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this real quick. I don't know if it's necessary one that you need to go ahead and write down all of them. We're going to talk about them. So first of all, f of g of x. Okay, I know that f of g of x, good grief. I know that f of g of x is the same as this. So what this means is we always start with the g function. Why? Because it's in the parentheses. Okay? Always start with the g because it's in parentheses. So I'm going to start down here at the g. Okay? I'm going to start at 8, right? Where does 8 take me? It takes me to 15. So that's the g of x function, right? Now I'm going to go to the f function and I'm going to find 15. Where does 15 take me? 11, so that's my answer. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing with the next point. Where does 5 take me? To 1. So then I'm going to go to the f function. 1 takes me to 8. So that's my second answer. My third answer, 10 takes me to 14. 14 takes me to 9. So my second answer is, or my third answer is 9. Okay, what is the last one going to be? 13, because 9 takes me to 0. 0 takes me to 13. So now I'm going to do it backwards. Okay, so I'm going to actually do it in reverse. I'm going to do g of f of x. So where do I start now? I start with the f of x function. So real quick, so we don't get confused, I'm going to go ahead and do this right here. Okay? So very first, I'm going to start with the 1. Where does 1 take me? 8. 8 takes me to 15. So my first answer is 15. What about my next one? 0 takes me to 13. There isn't one. So my second answer, undefined. Okay? Okay, so let's start on the next one. 15 takes me to 11. That one will be undefined as well.
Wait. But you got 13. Remember?
No,
On the
15 takes me to 11, then you
no,
have to,
the other one before
I
that.
know, but then you have to go to the second one. You have to go to the G and find out where it goes, and there's not a 13 there.
14.
Okay. So, the next one, 14 goes to 9, and then 9 goes to 0. So your answer is 0. You have to go through both in order for you to get an answer.
So that's your answer.
So those would be your answers. Yep, those would be your 4 answers. Okay, so now we're going to look at what happens if you're given the function itself and if you're not given the ordered pairs. So this is one thing I can guarantee you're going to want to pay attention. You're probably going to want to work these out as we go through them together. Okay, so this first one, we're going to find f of g of x, and we're going to find g of f of x. And yes, they are two different things. So the first one we're going to find, fog. Okay, and I know that by definition that equals f of g of x. Okay. Now, whenever we have an expression, we always start with the parentheses, right? So I'm going to start with the parentheses here. G of x is in parentheses, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write the g of x function. The g of x function is 4a. Now, what you see in purple is something that you had on your last test. We've already done this. And so what this f of 4a means is that I'm going to go to the f function, right? And I'm going to plug in 4a right here. So what this means is that I've got 2 times 4a minus 5. What does 2 times 4a minus 5 equal? 8a minus 5. Very good. Okay. Now we're going to reverse things. And instead of looking at f of g of x, I'm going to now look at g of f of x. So by definition, that equals g of f of x. Where are you going to start? With the f of x. So go ahead and do that for me, and let's see what you get. Start with that f of x. Plug that function in. Let's see how you do. Yes. Good job.
Oh man.
No, you don't get the same answer. This says that when I go to the g function, I'm going to put 2a minus 5, right? So really I get 4 times 2a minus 5. Difference is that the 2a minus 5 is in parentheses here. So I'm going to distribute, and I get 8a minus 20.
Why doesn't he be a?
Because that's what you're replacing. That's what you're replacing.
So wait.
So this is the form it'll take you.
Then why does he take the? Oh, you do.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another one. Okay, we're going to find f of g of x and g of f of x. Okay, this one's a little tricky.
So does this mean like? Does that mean that you're just going to put x minus 6x in the fx?
So we start with f of g of x, and yes, it does mean that.
Sweet.
Okay, because this is where I start. Now, some of you are probably going to be able to do some of this in your head. You won't be able to do all of it, but I would really suggest that you write it out, especially like right now, because I'm now finding f of what? X minus 6. Now, this is where things get interesting, because if you look back at your original problem here, I've got x squared. So if I plug x minus 6 in here, that means x minus 6 quantity squared. Okay? The difference. A lot of you like to say that this is x squared plus 36. Wrong. You can't just square the x and square the negative 6. And that's something that, especially if you're going to take the ACT, you need to make sure that you get those straightened around.
You have to FOIL that out.
Question.
Yes, you have to fill it out.
Why?
Because x minus 6 quantity squared means x minus 6 times x minus 6. When something is squared, it means it's taken times itself.
Makes sense.
So now, I'm going to distribute.
Where x six x
So if you don't FOIL it out, you're going to miss that middle term of negative 12x. Now if you go ahead and add like terms, you get x squared minus 12x plus 38. Okay, big difference. Huge, huge difference. So now g of f of x.
Go.
Golf, that's right.
Talking about.
Okay. You're going to start here, right?
Yes.
So g of what?
X squared plus 2.
X squared plus 2, good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take x squared plus 2. I'm going to put it right here. So I get x squared plus 2 minus 6. What is my net result?
X squared minus 4.
X squared minus 4. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Any questions?
Give me some.
We got 2 more. All right, so very next problem, Sounds to Go
I hate squared.
offers both an in-store $35 rebate and a 15% discount on a digital audio player that normally sells for $300, which provides the better price, taking the discount before the rebate or taking the discount after the rebate. So let's figure that out. I start with $300, right? So let's start by taking the 15% off. So what is 15% off of $300? What is 15% off? What would 10% be? 30. Okay? So 15%, yep, is 45. Good. So that leaves me with 255. Right? Now what I'm going to do is take the rebate. So the rebate is $35. So what will I end up paying for it?
Basically, what?
$220. Okay? So now let's start and do the same thing. I'm going to start with $300. Now I'm going to take off the $35 rebate. So that leaves me with what?
That would be at 265.
265?
You can
Take 15% off. What's 15% off of that? $39.75. What does that leave me with? $225.25. So which is the better deal? Yep, taking the discount before the rebate. Why?
Because you're saving $5
This is the thing. You're taking 15% of a bigger amount. Okay? Here we took 15% of 300. Here we took 15% of 265. So it's better to start with the bigger amount and take the percent off first, because you're always going to get $35 off regardless. Okay? All right. Now, this is your assignment. What we're going to do is we're going to look at one of the ones on your assignment, number 41. So pages 389 through 390, 8 through 16, the evens, 28 through 36, the evens, and 41 through 46 all. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead and turn in your book to page 390. We're going to look at number 41. Okay, turn in your book to page 390. We're going to look at number 41 in class. Okay. So page 390, we're going to look at number 41 in class. So f of g of negative 2. We're looking at 41. Now they tell us that f of x equals 5x And g of x equals negative 2x plus 1. Now this is a little different than the ones we looked at, but where do we always start with these? We start with the, right here. So what I need to do is find what g of negative 2 equals. So to find what g of negative 2 equals, I'm going to plug negative 2 in here. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So g of negative 2 is 5. So now I've really got f of 5. Where am I going to plug the 5? I'm going to plug the 5 into the 5x here. So 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, so you're going to start with whatever your inside function is first. Get an answer, then plug it into the outside one.
Is it 25 and 5?
The answer is 25, and that is it. Just 25. Just 25. So for tomorrow, gave you that assignment. So